What do you think of when you think of Mississippi? I asked different people to respond to this question and tell me what came to their mind. Here's what they said. Racists. Sweaty. Muggy. Spooky. A place where one encounters the past. Family. Warmth. Humidity. Evangelicals. Rural. Hardworking. Lack of education. Plantations. White supremacy. Juke joints. Race wars. Good food. Slow living. Country. Sweet. Solitude. The river. Backwards thinking. Ancestors. Where the deep roots of this nation reside. Mississippi, goddamn. All of these things are true. And none of them. How do you accurately characterize a place? I think that depends on who's defining what's accurate. When I think of Mississippi, I think of open roads where you can see the trees kissing the horizon line of the sky. I think of my family's homes, wasting away under the Mississippi sun, serving as relics of what once was. I think of one of my earliest memories in the house. I had pink eye, and my mom had just given me eye drops and my eyes were watering. I laid on the floral bed sheets and stared up at the wood paneling. I think of the train tracks we cross, and the intersection of 17th and 7th Ave where our house sits on the corner. I think of catfish frying and breakfasts with my uncle in Maryland. Mississippi has always been with us in the kitchen. I think of walking through the woods on Ransom, trying to find Aunt Jenny's grave. I think of the goat motel that sits parallel to our family's gravesite. I think of Catfish Alley and memories of life that I've never lived, but somehow visit me in my dreams. When I think of Mississippi, I think of everything. And I think of nothing. You said you didn't want to be buried here, right?
Right.
Why not?
I'm gonna do the cremation thing.
Whose is that?
I don't know. I think it's my grandmother, but I'm not sure. Yeah, this is my grandmother, Lucy Phelps. Died 41.
So this is the whole family plot here on the Phelps side.
Yeah. Yep, this is the family on the Phelps side. My daddy is buried here too.
He's right there. Yeah.
So what you'll notice out here is, as you mentioned a moment ago, this is on the Phelps side. It's my mother's side of the family, except her father is not buried here. This is my grandmother, maternal grandmother, and my mother's siblings mostly.
Why
and I
do
don't
you want
remember.
to why do you want to be cremated and not buried here?
Oh, I'm of the opinion that where you buried doesn't matter very much. Your soul is not going to follow your body. So cremation is more efficient. So that's totally fine with me. So cremate me.
Okay, Papa. Well, what do you think about the cemetery here? Like the condition of it and...
Well, it brings back a lot of memories of relatives. Most of my close relatives are gone, and I don't get here very much. So it's fairly emotional to see the names of all of these deceased relatives. They're kind of buried in the order in which they died. So my grandmother, I never knew her. This one is my aunt. This is my mother's oldest sister. Grew up with her. She took care of us preschool. She died in '54. This is the first death I remember in the family.
This was hers? Hers was
Yes,
the first death?
right. First one I recall. It's a little bit rough just seeing all of these grave sites again. I try to get here whenever I'm in town, but it's always an emotional experience to get back here and just have those memories come back. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Well, it's been a long time since my mother's been down here, and she won't walk in here because of her anxiety, and she can't see the ground, she doesn't know what's in here. So I feel like there's a lot of significance for me in terms of like her being here with her father and him coming down here. And the three of us have never all been here together at the same time. So yeah, there's a lot of energy here, but also a lot of avoidance. Meet my great uncle and my grandfather, Jesse and William Brown. In numerous ways, they've both helped raise me. They were born and raised in this house in Columbus, Mississippi. Their mother and her 9 siblings also grew up in this house, and we still have it in our family today. When I talk about Columbus, most people think I'm talking about Ohio, but I am talking about a little town in the northeast corner of Mississippi. It's about 9 miles from the Alabama state line, just off the Tombigbee River, and until 1821 was actually considered Alabama. To me, it's considered a place of great mystery. Mystery surrounding what was and what is. When I've talked to people about the South, the rural South, a lot of it is covered in pain, at least for Black folks. But I look in my family's archive and it seemed so beautiful. Maybe part of me is searching for bits and pieces of the family members I never got to meet. Maybe I'm hoping I'll find part of myself in the wreckage. Maybe I'm hoping to understand where we are now and how we've all become so distant. I'm not sure why in my mid-20s I'm so obsessed with preserving the past. But maybe it's because I feel like a lot of these stories, the memories, and the warmth, it's fading. And I'm sure now more than ever that a part of this comes with growing up, but on a larger and more cosmic level, I feel like times are changing in a way that makes everything feel more fragile. And I'm trying to hold on. But what happens to us when we allow ourselves to forget? To forget who came before us and what it means to exist after. A lot of things fade away with people. But will I be able to preserve their memories? Their names and their stories? Will you? Are you even trying? I think in a sense we've been hiding a lot away. I mean, these houses are still here, and so are we, but we're not in the same place. And we haven't really been doing anything with them. Until now, we've barely talked about them.
As a child, I didn't appreciate being here. I didn't appreciate what my grandparents had to impart into me, their wisdom, their struggle, their journeys they went through. I didn't appreciate that, and I didn't fully understand it until probably maybe the last 15 years, how much they went through here.
So this is the one I want to bring.
Yeah.
I definitely think we should keep it. So whose was this? This machine?
You know, I don't remember which one of my two aunts this belonged to. I think it was, I'm not absolutely sure. I think it was Aunt Bessie. Because when they both became widowed, they sold their individual houses and consolidated into this house, moved here sometime in the 80s. So there's furniture from both of them in this house, and I can't remember which is which.
So what year was this house built?
Oh goodness, that house goes back to, my grandfather built that house, my mother's father. and it was built before I was born.
How many siblings did she have in there?
It was just me and my brother.
And then deers, when they lived there, how many of them?
Oh, well, I don't know the answer to that. It used to be, when I was growing up, there was so much family close to this area. So you do lose that sense of closeness as people move around to different parts of the country. There used to be a big tree in the yard here, kind of in the corner of the yard where that sign is.
Mm-hmm.
And two weekends in a row, somebody got drunk, came down the road here at a high speed and ran into that tree. Like, same place, 2 weekends straight. The neighborhood is so different, so deteriorated. The reality is we fix these houses up and get renters in to these two houses. The presence of the rowdy crew over there on the other corner is going to influence the kind of people who would want to live here. And so you may just get more of the same. I actually dream about this house a lot.
From like your childhood?
No, usually the dreams that I have about it are current day. Usually it's not the past, it's current years that I'm living. Yeah, but there's usually surrounding that some kind of chaos going on outside house. And it's usually at night, and there's some little bit of commotion happening outside with some unknown people. But this used to be a very quiet, laid-back neighborhood. Although 7th Avenue here is the main artery through this part of town. It's like for the north side community, 7th Avenue is the place where a lot of activity happened.
I remember always, like every summer, it would rain. And usually the blackout.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd open this window and just the fresh air coming in. And I would get up on the bed and dear made me take a nap. And I hate taking a nap, but just that fresh air coming through and the rain was so peaceful. And it was just always peaceful here.
This stuff is in bad shape. This was added to the house. The back of the house used to be here. This was added. It was probably late 50s or early 60s. This was added when they brought sewer into this area, because we used to not have sewer system. We had an outdoor toilet.
Why was there no sewage over here?
It was because the city didn't think that black folks, or colored people as they would say at the time, needed to have sewer.
Sometimes it feels like pulling teeth to get bits and pieces of my own history. Their history. It's hard to get people to talk about it, and I find sometimes with older folks they don't really understand why I care. Part of me feels like I'm towing a line between understanding what is required when I ask. The difference between a lived experience and hearing about one. The other part of me knows that not enough people my age are even asking. And I care about who I came from because it helps me understand where I should be going. So, I'm very much in search of myself, but I'm also in search of them and who they were before there was a me.
This tree was about at least 30 feet. The tornado that came through this region about 2 years ago knocked this tree over.
Besides my great-grandmother's home, there's also Ransom Road, where her sister Jenny used to live. My grandfather told me that she would sell moonshine out of this house. She was the only person in all of Columbus that the sheriff let sell alcohol. We searched for hours for her grave, which sits in the woods adjacent to this house, unmarked, somewhere in the forest. The house sits quietly in a field, guarded by a family of buzzards, and if they let you get close enough, you can see her dress hanging on the wall, green with white polka dots. Not too far from there is John Brown's house, otherwise known as JB. He lives not too far from Helen, who everyone calls Dude, though I haven't gotten a clear reason as to why. Then there's JB's sister, Honey, who's literally as sweet as honey. And then there's the land, sitting boldly, proudly, and quietly as the biggest keeper of time amongst us all. There's a certain stillness out here that I absolutely love. With family that open their doors and sometimes their own memories.
They moved Mom out the door with a long shotgun and walked on through. The women were standing around in their outing gowns.
Bridging the gap between the details that we've lost. It makes me think about what it was like to leave this place, for those who did end up leaving. And how has it impacted me as I look back and piece together all of the different facets that make up who I am today. And I wonder how many people thought about what pieces of themselves were left behind in that landscape. And after the movement had begun, how did they begin to piece together a new sense of self? How do we look at the migration and not look at the fragments?